Hello, and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by Mike Smith, award-winning director Brian Redondo, and Savon Jones, aka Captain Vonnie. This is episode 31, and on today's show, we talk about Marvel Studios' Black Widow. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund. All right. Welcome back. It's been a little bit of minutes. We had a few life events happen. Mike went back to his long-lost home of not Russia, not South Africa, but Long Island. And,
Chappaqua in the house.
and Savon, Captain Vonnie, ended up making his way to the big, bad city of Detroit, Michigan. Savon, how's it going up there?
Boy, it's cool. Y'all can see the background. I'm still in this hotel right now, so I'm trying to.
Looks like that hotel has vibes,
that's real
though.
Detroit.
Nice olive
He's
green.
still on the
window.
come up, but we're getting there.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
I'm trying to get about this joint, but
Right.
I actually got approved for my apartment yesterday. So.
Hey,
Oh, let's
Congratulations.
You hear me?
First,
So I'm
let's go of the show.
Yeah, we out.
Hey,
2 and
We
3.
out.
what
It's
kind of
fire, but,
apartment? What's the
One
deal?
bedroom, downtown Detroit.
Hell yeah.
Good amount of square feet, room, amenities in the building. Scratches all my boxes. And
Have
I can
you
move on
had-
Tuesday.
Detroit style pizza yet?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
You probably know if you did.
You had
I went
pizza.
to a pizza joint.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know if
Was
it
it like
Detroit
a
style.
square?
No, it wasn't a square. It was like,
Okay,
a
well,
circle.
that's not Detroit style pizza. Classic
mean-
circle pizza.
Sorry, I don't know.
It's
a
the
lot
best
about
kind
Detroit.
of pizza. Circle pizza.
You got to get that
Tastes better.
Detroit
Shut
pizza,
into the
man.
door, shape, argument, nuances. Now Detroit's dope though. I'll tell you this much though, son. It's I went outside today and it was 65 degrees and I wasn't
Ooh,
getting
I'm jealous.
just assaulted by humidity. I was like, I can get used to this.
Wait.
That
Wait,
sounds
yeah,
awesome.
wait 6 months. Yeah.
Don't chill out.
Polar opposite.
Don't even-
pun
You're-
intended.
You're gonna be the one chilling out. If
I know.
you
Let me have this. I know
Polar
that I'm
opposite
gonna
is the
get
right word
wrecked.
there.
I am
Savon's
warm-blooded.
just trying to share one thing he's excited about.
That's
and
awesome.
Everybody's like,
And
well,
y'all
it's
just
gonna
like-
get so much
That's
worse.
what everyone. That's what everyone says. Anytime I'm just like, oh, I'm really enjoying this. Just wait. I'm like,
You gotta enjoy something though.
I know how weather works, bro.
Yeah.
I know it's gonna get cold.
Have you ever owned a winter coat is the question.
I don't think like my best winter gear is like thermal underwear, and then I got like all my stuff was like warm but fresh and cool, and look
Okay,
nice.
well
And
now you
apparently-
get to unlock the whole world of winter drip, though. So
Yeah,
now
apparently
that's,
I don't
that's
get to be
exciting,
cute.
right?
You get to be practical. You don't
I
get
like
to be
it.
cute.
No, there's cute
No,
jackets.
Oh,
know,
you
some
gotta do
people,
both, my friend.
fat guys like me, winter is our time, because you could like put on lots of clothes.
Kind
and
of
then-
tailor your body shape,
yeah,
your silhouette.
Like the drip in summer is lacking, but in winter I look like a fucking Peaky Blinders character.
I mean, if those long johns ain't styling, like, you got it wrong, man.
Yeah, Savannah's like purple satin long underwear.
Yeah.
Mm.
You
Do you
gotta
really?
look good
Do you
when
really?
you
I
unlayer.
was
No,
just- that
no,
was-
but, like-
oh. Maybe you should.
He's like
With the
idea
internet,
box.
these things are possible. Like,
All right.
yeah.
We're recording on a Saturday. In fact, it's the Saturday after the first Marvel theatrical release in a billion years, practically. Black
What's Marvel?
Widow. Yeah, the MCU finally comes to theaters near you. Gentlemen, actually, that's where I want to go first. How was it being back in a theater? Brian, I want to get your quick. What was your initial impressions there?
Ooh, theaters. Lovely, lovely spaces. I saw it on an RPX screen, which, by the way, for those that don't know, is Regal's bootleg version of IMAX. But a very large and lovely screen, and Scarlett Johansson was large and lovely as well, as was the rest of the movie. Maybe we should cut this out. I'm not trying to be all misogynistic over here and stuff.
Well,
Um,
now you
I
made
just
it
think
a
she
thing,
big.
so,
If you think she just
yeah.
big and fine, then that's you.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was.
Great.
But anyway, it was larger than life, man. My TV feels so small. I went home and watched TV, and I was like, "What the man?
not cutting it.
What's all that? What's all that negative space behind the TV? I need wall to wall screen, ceiling to floor screen." It was awesome. And it was great hearing like the chuckles from the other people in the audience. I was like, "Oh, you're getting this too? Good for you. You're in on the joke. Thank God." It's
Mike,
wonderful.
how was it for you?
I'm just gonna say it. Movie theaters are gross, man. Like, this is like obviously this was my genuinely first time in a movie theater. I didn't do that bougie stuff y'all did, renting out
The
a whole
rent-a-theater?
movie theater or whatever. Yeah.
Missing out, man. Missing
This
out.
was my first time. I went to the AMC in Metairie, which
says
was
the
probably my
AMC?
first mistake. It's there's only one. No, it's actually not even only one in Metairie. It was gross.
Yeah, there's
and
two,
like,
bro.
it's my first time after COVID, but I got past it. It had a nice big recliner. You had to dig out the other people's popcorn and like stick some napkins in the cup holder to dry the mysterious liquid in there. But
Ugh.
after you get settled, it was pretty cool. Now, we won't talk about the movie quite yet, but I also enjoyed being around other people. Luckily, there was no one in the seat next to me. I think I would have been like a little like, ugh, like, don't sit next to me.
Who do they think they are?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely went to a
honestly.
matinee for that reason.
I did like at the end, I think our theater felt pretty similarly. And I like how like it just becomes like a mob mentality. Like if the theater either likes a movie or doesn't, but there were definitely some collective groans at the end, which we'll talk about later. But
Really?
overall positive experience. There's a lot of other movies I want to go see. Like I think I'm very much missed the trailer part of the experience because that's always something I really enjoy. Like I crushed a giant Coke Zero during all the trailers. Just like heart was racing, freaking out in the movies. I was like, I want to watch that one. I want to watch that one.
Did you crush it so bad that you had to pee in the middle of the movie? Like that would be a
Well,
rookie
no.
mistake,
So
man.
I gotta. Wow, this is gonna be a story nobody wants. So I crushed the Coke Zero. I got up. I was like, all right, I'm gonna preemptively pee during the
The
trailers.
pre-pee.
Couldn't actually pee. Decided not to get the other
What?
Coke Zero just because I'm like, I don't need to be drinking like 60 ounces of Coke Zero in like 45 minutes. And then because the timing was way off of the preemptive pee, then I had to pee halfway through the movie. And then I'm just like freaking out because I just like have like ingested an ungodly amount of caffeine. Have to pee a lot watching this aggressively neutral movie. And I'm just like, what is happening?
Wow, he's about to jump
Wow.
on that movie so quick. He couldn't even help it.
Awesome. Savon, did you go see it in a theater or did you rent it at
No,
home?
I rented it. I watched it in the spot I'm sitting in right now.
Oh my
Right on.
God, get out of here. I was so proud of you too, Savannah. I was like,
What you
wow, he's
mean?
getting out. He's doing stuff. He went to a movie. No.
Oh, y'all thought I just went out and went to the movies? No.
Yes.
No.
How
I
was
don't
your
even know where the movie
experience?
theaters are.
Did you rent it on the hotel like TV?
No, I just had my Disney Plus. I just Disney Plused it.
And how was it?
You spent $30 on that movie?
That's his commitment to the show.
$15. Yeah, I'm glad.
What about
you enjoyed
snacks?
the
What about
movie,
snacks and gas
True,
and all that other
true.
stuff?
All right, you're right.
I spent a ton of money.
And
Not
what,
gonna
Anna?
lie.
What, you and Anna just went Dutch on the date? Did she not even go?
Solo.
Bold of you to assume Anna would go see Black Widow with me. I went with friend of the show, Alan Wynn.
Oh
No.
God!
I can't be by myself. Brian, do you think this shtick comes with being doing well by yourself? No.
Nah, I watched it. I just watched it on my TV in the hotel room. But so that was its own experience.
All right.
Yeah, I had to wear pants watching the movie. Savon did not.
He was in his silk pajamas.
In his drawers, as it were.
So rather than a larger than life experience, you were larger than the movie.
Ooh.
Basically.
All right, can we talk about the actual movie now?
Wait. I wanted to say the surround
Oh.
sound was the part that caught me.
Oh,
off
that
the
was sick,
most.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right, like
Yeah,
you're
that
hearing
was cool.
like
It was
the
loud.
fires crackling and like
loud,
the
yeah.
avalanche all around
Yeah.
you.
There's
That
some
was
painful
amazing.
punches.
Painful punches, huge visuals. I mean, it was just like great. My only downside, the seats were actually uncomfortable at the theater we went to. 3 out of 5 or 2 out of 5 would not recommend this theater. I
Bring
want to
your
go
own
to a
couch,
recliner
man.
theater next time.
Bring your-
Should have done that. Why didn't I think of
Shucks.
that? And our showing wasn't that crowded. We went at 6 p.m. And didn't. Our theater was maybe 20% at the most full. So it actually felt pretty.
Oh, that's nothing.
Pretty like low energy, yeah. For
Yeah.
the movie. So it was interesting. All right, Mike, you already started off by saying it's aggressively neutral, so I guess we'll let
He was
you
about
go
to say
first.
bad. He was about to say like objectively bad. Is what he wanted to say.
No. I was really reaching for aggressively neutral, and then like just because I'm such a hater, like objectively bad started coming out. But then I'm trying to think about like what my words more and like build a filter between brain and mouth. So that was that
unnecessary.
in work there.
Unnecessary. Don't do that.
Yeah, my hot take, my uneducated hot takes are
I'm
what
glad.
everybody loves about me.
I'm glad you've been doing some self-actualization. I feel like probably
learned-
Loki has helped you.
Yeah.
Like we'll talk about that on the
Men
next
will do
episode.
anything other than going to therapy. So I learned a new. So shout out!
Facts.
I went to go see the movie with friend of the show, Alan Wynn, who hates everything. Like I'm on record saying that. Like the man is quick. Savon said today in the chat, like Alan Wynn and visceral reactive takes. Like name a better duo. But Alan described it, and I love this word. The word is anodyne. Have y'all heard this word before?
No, teach it to us.
Anodyne. It's the definition is not likely to provoke dissent or offense, inoffensive, often deliberately so. That is how I felt about this movie. I felt it was anodyne. Like, it's just like
I
went
100% agree.
I try to go into it with like not low expectations, almost like no expectations. Also, with the context, like this movie was supposed to come out like 18 months ago.
That doesn't change it. That
But
of it.
but the timing of I actually kind of disagree because I feel like the timing of MCU stuff is very key in terms of when it comes out relative to other things. So it's like this felt like a weird step back. Are we doing spoilers in this conversation?
We're
'Cause
definitely doing
Yeah.
spoilers. Friends, if
Everyone's
you haven't
seen it.
seen
Come
Black
on.
Widow, yeah, if you haven't seen Black Widow, go see it.
I love the Black Widow character. I think her backstory is really interesting. Honestly, the time period I am least interested in her is the time period the main plot of this movie took place. Like after Civil War, before she met up with, like, I don't care about that. I want to see like how you became such a badass or like how you're so traumatized. And I feel like that, like, they brushed over that completely for this story that was supposed to be mostly about family, but we didn't really have reason to care about the family. And Alan made a good point that like a lot of the later Marvel movies like had those strong connections, familial friendship, chosen family, what have you, because they had all the 10 years of work leading up to that. With this, they just try to throw a family at you and expect them to care, which like I didn't really buy into it. The saving grace of the movie and that specific part of it was Florence Pugh. I thought she killed it. I thought she was actually a great character. Didn't like the post-credit scene, but we can talk about that after.
Savon, what do you
She's a
think?
scene stealer.
Who does she play?
The sister.
Yeah. Elena.
The sister.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, cool. I enjoyed the movie.
You haven't got your Rolodex of white women actors like ready?
Nope.
No,
haven't.
you didn't have that.
Not
one
even
ready.
a
He
little
has
bit.
a different Rolodex of white women, if you know what I mean.
I don't
know what
you
that
mean.
means.
I'm not
I
sure
don't
where
know
we're
what
going
that
with
means, Michael.
Skip.
What does that mean?
I like.
All right, two
I
L's
like-
on the day. That's fine.
Three strikes you're
Keep
out.
going.
Player. No,
Yeah.
I like the movie. I enjoyed it. I'm a big Black Widow fan. I think when it comes to MCU stuff, I tend to enjoy the more grounded spy. Like I love Civil War, Winter Soldier, so I'm realizing I just like those style of MCU content more than maybe the less grounded stuff. So I think genre-wise, I already was gonna like it. I don't know. Overall, I enjoyed the movie. Like, I think for what I expected of like a Black Widow film, I got what I wanted. I got to see her do cool spy stuff. I got to kind of get a look into her background. I'm a comic reader, so they made references to things and events and characters in a way that was enjoyable for me as a long-term fan, but they kept it refreshing. Like, Taskmaster is one of my favorite characters. They put Taskmaster in, but still did a spin on it in a way that was unique even for me to see it. And I don't know, when it's all said and done, like, I know you use the term anodyne to describe the movie, but, like, I don't think a movie needs to be provocative and have to be controversial in order to be quality. Like, it told the story it wanted to tell, which is this woman is dealing with survivor's guilt amongst a lot of other things. This is her trying to reconcile with that, and then the movie makes a larger point about the nature of just trafficked women internationally, which is a real thing. It's not like that's, that's a very real thing. And, maybe that's not the main point of the movie, but like, I got what I wanted to get out of it. I was entertained. There was a few moments that were kind of like, but that's not going to ruin the movie for me. I was entertained. I never was like, oh, I don't want to watch this. I'm bored.
Brian?
Controversial statement. Half of all MCU movies are Anodyne. And that's okay. I'm totally okay with that. Like, they're still fun. And I thought this one was one of them. It was actually like better than, like to me it was like more entertaining than Captain Marvel, for example. Which was totally fine.
Yeah,
hard
agree.
That's a hot take. Okay.
But like for this, especially the amount of time we've been waiting, like the time period that I'm consuming this piece of entertainment in, it was fun. I'm with Savon, man. Like I enjoyed the whole ride. It was like very titillating for me. But there's like plenty of hiccups throughout the movie, and the stakes were a little bit low, but the action was really great. It was like the kind of movie that just gave you every action movie, spy trope in the world, like parachute fight, like fighting, close hotel room fighting, or in the safe house, like all that kind of stuff, which is all well and good. But I do also agree with Mike that, for the Black Widow character, it did very little for her as a character, and for the greater MCU. I know like this movie is setting up a lot of pieces on the board for the Hawkeye TV show later and maybe some other things. But it really did nothing for the character of Black Widow, which I was a little disappointed by. I think she actually takes kind of a backseat in this movie. Right after we watched this, we went home and we went on Disney Plus and we watched the Legendary series, right? Where they're basically recapping characters for people to get caught up on. And we watched the Black Widow one, and her Legendary.
Wait,
it's
Disney's not going to pay us unless we say the title right. It's called Legends, not Legendary.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Legends.
Then they'll pay us.
Marvel
Okay,
Legendary is a card game.
Oh.
Anyway, so Legends, the Black Widow Legends episode, I thought was way more entertaining for Black Widow's character
Oh no.
than her actual
That's
movie.
a problem.
That is
Right,
a
like,
problem. Those things
she-
are so like milquetoast, just like recap clips.
But
They're
she
not
has
even,
so many like
she has such a
great
good
lines,
arc,
and
she does a lot
yeah.
throughout the movies.
Yeah, she just like drops these gems and like she's playing with Loki, she's toying him, she says some hard stuff to Tony Stark. Like it's really great. And I was just thinking back on the Black Widow movie. I was like, what were her quotables, if any, in this movie? None. Though she broke her nose. That was cool.
That was badass.
But there wasn't enough badassery from her. But I would say like the family as a whole and Yelena, like I'm down with it. It was cool.
Can I make like one follow-up point there? Because I think you saying like half of the, and here is like honestly my main criticism with like this whole experience. Like you're absolutely right. Like probably half of the MCU movies are Anodyne, but that half is heavily skewed towards the first 5 years the movies came out, right? Like we're talking the first couple of Thors. So it's like now for where like the MCU got to, the way it built up. And again, like I feel like you can't critique this movie without considering that it was supposed to come out a year ago, like in a very, like before any of the shows, before we felt like things were moving forward. This felt like a big step back, like story-wise, because it was kind of not relevant to anything moving forward. It was relevant to a very specific time period that we've experienced a whole emotional arc over, Civil War going into Infinity War, going into Endgame. So, like, the plot has, like, obviously gotten a lot better. The things have gotten a lot more interconnected over the years. And who's a better emblematic character of that than Black Widow, right? Arguably the most, maybe besides Thor. Like, Thor was a main character, so maybe like she is the best example of how it improved, because she was like a nothing kind of side character, kind of just there. And then she became in Endgame like one of the most important characters in the whole MCU, like thematically, and then her performance at the end really gave so much weight to that whole movie, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you take a huge step backwards to this very hyper-specific time period. Like, it didn't even show Steve at all. It didn't show, like, it was just her leading up to that point, which, like, I don't really care about that
Mike
too much.
is on
like,
first name basis with Steve now. I got it.
Yeah, my boy, Mr.
Boy.
Rogers.
Call him.
So it was just like, it just felt like it was like such a weird step back for the character in the universe, for like the way Marvel is now, like in terms of what they're producing, that like I couldn't remove that from the way I felt about the movie.
All right, so I'm gonna push back a little bit. Like, Wes, you had something? If not, I'm about to push back on Mike.
No, go ahead. I got a 2 cents, but it's not related to that. So yeah.
So what I'll push back on is like, I think a lot of the things that this movie did were steps away from things that I thought were criticism actually of MCU movies. Like, one MCU movie threat was, why does every movie have to have end of the world high stakes, and not everything has to be the end of the world? And I enjoyed that this was its own self-contained conflict, because one of the best things I enjoy about Marvel in general is that there are so many groups, factions, villains of different levels. You have people who are like galaxy level threats like Dormammu, but you have people like Taskmaster, who's just like, a copy fighter. And I think the only way you can really use and appreciate those types of characters is to have a variety of conflicts of different scales. So, and I think part of that means you need to have things that are separated from the main larger maybe MCU conflict. So like, does this
I
have
agree.
anything
So
to do
go
with Thanos?
backwards in time. Go back. Go before Iron Man 2. Why
true.
would we need to hear like such a micro conflict for this arguably like pointless point of her life?
I think the point of the movie was for her to be addressing her past, not the movie be about her living through the past. Like, I think that's the big difference, because you would get two very different movies if you had her just doing her Red Room training and that's the movie, because that's like you get a first-hand account. I think that could be a great movie, by the way. But they clearly decided to go with this comes up constantly, right, in her MCU stuff. I'm sure you saw it in Legends. Her biggest character beat is redemption and reflecting on your past and the things that you've done. So maybe for her character, it'd make more sense to talk about her reflecting on her actions and the consequences long-term than it just being you seeing essentially her origin story, which I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but that to me, that seems like a deliberate choice they made. Now, whether you agree with it or not, I'm not going to argue with you on that, but I think it was done with intentionality, and that was something I was, like, the conversation she has with reconciling with, we were sleeper agents, are we a family, all of that. I think that time setting lets you address that,
sure.
but you can't do that if you have it, like, while it was all actively happening, which, so, I don't know, that's kind of, but, and then again, on the Anodyne thing, like, even the newer MCU movies, what's some MCU content that was really, like, actually not Anodyne? Like, really? Because Black Panther played it safe, Falcon and Winter Soldier played it safe. Like, what MCU movies are really
I don't know if Black
controversial?
Panther played it safe.
No way,
Black
not with
Panther
Killmonger.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
that whole character is like rejected. Yeah, I disagree with that.
I think
but
Black Panther played it very safe relative to other movies that I've seen that talked about that type of content. But, maybe that's its own conversation, but MCU and Disney's always going to play it relatively safe. They're not going to put out Crash.
I agree. That'd be really funny. Like.
To me, Crash is like the epitome of
But like
Anodyne.
one quick thing is the movie, the scale is global, because at the end when they ham-fisted like he's controlling everybody everywhere and he can start a war and boom, oil fields burning in Baghdad and then like protests in
Ultron right
Bolivia.
now.
Yeah, it was just like why do we have to ham-fist that in the end? I agree with you that I agree with almost everything you said, but it's just like I feel like they were trying to do that, but then they just had to throw in the generic Marvel military-industrial complex, like fighting spy kind of narrative. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Brian.
I mean, I think there are definitely issues you can pick out of that, right? From they said like, oh, the Widows were like the greatest threat to like whatever, but they actually never showed us anything that the Widows ever did, right? Like that's a problem. All they
Besides
did was do
fight
kata
other widows.
Yeah, all they did was do kata in the like little training room. Like, okay, like great, they're great at doing dance forms.
They look really good at choreography, I must say.
I wish like they showed like
was a
instead
cool
of doing
knee
all these
spin.
instead of doing all these big like exposition dumps and
Right.
just like I
Just show
wish
us.
we got to experience that. Yeah,
Exactly.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Brian. What were you gonna say?
Oh, totally.
Wait,
Yeah.
I'm still going. You guys. Have
Okay,
talked
go
about
ahead,
here.
Wes.
Okay. But I wanted to give credit to something that they did do really well, which is one of the huge draws of coming to a Marvel movie, which is like these giant set pieces that having these
That was
huge
good.
budgets allow, right?
Yeah.
So the one that really comes to mind is the prison breakout scene, right? They have this like
Another trope.
crazy, Mission Impossible style, like getting out of prison. But then they set off the avalanche, and now you have this like helicopter swinging like a person around, right? Like you can only do those things when you have a huge amount of money to do both the practical and visual effects there. And it was like, I mean, there was tension there, right? Like you didn't know if they were going to be able to pick up Red Guardian. You didn't know if all those prisoners were going to, die. You didn't know
Did they
how
all
were
die? Like that's
Yeah, I don't know.
presumed, right? Like she just okay, I was like,
Yeah.
damn, you just
I think they
really
were going
just,
inside. Yeah, but you just
Is
you didn't know
inside enough for an avalanche?
Yeah, here's the
protection?
thing about avalanches.
Can we get an actuary on this?
They got food and supplies, maybe.
You just didn't know how they were going to resolve that, right? Like you knew they were going to succeed in some way, you just didn't know how. And I thought that was cool. But there was tons of that, right? That's not the only huge set piece that they had that worked and fit in. It didn't feel just thrown in. It felt like there was a point to it, and like there was a reason why they had to do all this stuff. There's that first airplane chase scene where the dad is like sniping from the wing of the airplane, which is like
That was
really cool.
That,
like
that
total,
opening
that was
was
maybe
probably the
unnecessary.
strongest part of the movie. Oh no, I thought that was probably. I was very bought in that first scene.
Maybe that's because you didn't have to pee during that part of the movie.
Yeah, true, true.
Mike was just anxious, and that took off 2 stars for the movie.
I don't know. I thought that part was cool. I was like,
It
all right,
was
we're
cool.
gonna see
No,
her
yeah,
as
it
a
was-
child. We're gonna see her growing up. This guy is a super soldier, but they did it in like a kind of like insidious way, and then it just ended up being anything but nuanced.
It was very The Americans. You guys watch that show?
I've actually
No.
never seen that, but I think I would.
Great show. Yes. Highly
Um,
recommend it.
Yeah, and I mean, so those parts I loved, right? Like all of these action sequences, her fight against Taskmaster on the bridge was really cool. It was like really brief, but you could see like she was like mimicking her. And I thought the way that they showed you what Taskmaster's skill was without telling you at first was pretty cool, right? Like if you've been watching the Marvel movies, you saw like Black Panther style come out. You saw you saw
Winter
Hawkeye
Soldier.
come out. You saw Winter Soldier. You saw Captain America come out.
Mhm.
And later they tell you, more explicitly, like, oh, that's what Taskmaster does. But it was just cool to see that, like, oh, wait, that was Black Panther. I was like, oh, she's mimicking your fighting style by doing all of this. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Taskmaster was like one of the stronger parts of the movie, but you could have cut and paste that into any movie. Like there was, I don't know. I was gonna ask Savon about the lore of Taskmaster. Like, is that character tied to Black Widow's story or whatever? But I
Yeah.
felt like you could have just taken that character and placed it in any movie as like the
Yeah.
villain.
It could be from, like,
henchman
G.I.
kinda guy.
Joe.
And it would have worked. It was cool. I appreciate it, but it didn't really make the movie better holistically. It was just like one cool part of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, there's different interpretations of the Taskmaster character, but I would say they've always been someone who's meant to be like a top tier threat to your not super powered, but like more grounded hand to hand heroes. And that's like that's kind of where they fit in maybe power level wise. But honestly, I felt like they could have did more, honestly.
Yeah, and Taskmaster in the Spider-Man game was way cooler than this stuff.
Yeah. There's, like I said, there's different
did.
variations of how they do the character. I like this twist on the character, but
I did too.
that was a very cool, just to like, because normally he's just your standard, like, oh, I'm a mercenary who can do this, and there's some other stuff
Yeah.
to twist in, but like, so I have a question for y'all then. But one
Brian's
thing
been
also-
trying to talk
Fire
for
it
like
off.
20
Fire it
no,
off.
but Brian, go.
No. Ask the question.
All right, my thing is, considering everybody's different takes and all this, where do you rank this amongst other just like MCU movies? Because I have this like above Captain Marvel. I probably like this movie more than I liked like the Guardians movies, to be honest.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're opening up a huge can of worms.
Jesus
Keep it a buck.
Christ.
At the very
So if
least, they're equal. But I definitely don't think that like Guardians of the Galaxy is better than, for me, Black Widow.
So just give it
And
a
that's
tier.
taste thing.
S to F tier. Where do y'all put it?
S rank.
Really? You put this as an S tier movie, Brian?
Oh, definitely not. I just wanted to say S rank
Okay.
because it's a cool. Thing
Nah,
to
for
say.
me, this was one of the lower tier movies. I liked it. I just didn't love it.
This is like
C tier. I'd go C
high,
tier,
low
I think.
tier.
Yeah, I'd go like C.
Like,
that
for
movie
me,
should
it's
have
like
below
above
B tier.
Iron Man
What do you put
2,
below it?
Iron Man 2, Thor 2.
Yeah.
Iron Man.
The
Are you thinking Iron Man
sequels.
3?
No, Iron
2
Man
and
Iron
3
Man's
were
like
not
so
okay.
bad. 2.
3 is better than 2.
Thor, The Incredible Hulk.
The second Guardians.
You'd put it
movie.
above the first
The
Thor?
second Guardians
I
movie
enjoyed the
is
first.
good.
That's
Yeah,
like
I mean, those
even.
movies are so original. It's just lower down there. I mean, I think the production quality's gone so much better over the years because now they have all the crazy money. But like the core of the movie wasn't great, so it kind of levels out a bit.
I mean, I think you got to keep that in mind though, because like I think sometimes when you notice when the bar gets raised, sometimes it's hard to appreciate that like, hey, this is still really good. You're just comparing it to some other stuff that's like all time great level. Because I definitely comfortably have this movie above a lot of the earlier MCU stuff. Like,
yeah,
I like it more than
that's
Iron
the point I
Man.
made earlier.
Like, I think it's better comfortably than Iron Man. Like, I've rewatched Iron Man 3. It did not age well. 2 is solid, but I think I enjoyed Black Widow more than both of those movies. Pretty much all the Thor movies up to Ragnarok. That list starts to grow of movies that you'd put it above. So it's like keep in mind. I think there's some quality inflation going on here where things have gotten so good you don't realize how good
all right, well, we're getting into a whole
that
different podcast of like how do you rank all the movies. We can do that.
Yeah.
Brian, go ahead.
All right, so I want to ask a question as well now. So one thing that we talked about was this notion of family, right? For one thing, I will say it's already established that Natasha has the Avengers family. like they didn't really need to give her another family to deal with.
She has 2 families.
Yeah, that was kind of silly. But one of the things that made it silly was that they were her Russian family, and a big drawback for the movie, in my opinion, is how heavy these fake Russian accents were throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
Like, they got progressively worse. Like, Florence Pugh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But then,
David
Red Guard,
none of them Russian?
Like, and they were undercover.
No, they're all like American.
They were undercover in Ohio for 3 years, and you're still using incorrect grammar. You're like, there is pig. Like, come on. So I must ask, Mikhail Smith, tell us your feelings. How did the MCU do on their first foray into catering to the Russian audiences out
Mike,
there?
what is your background?
Brian
Russian?
actually isn't asking me this as someone with a Russian name. He's asking me this as a communist. So I can answer that question from the perspective of a leftist.
Red Guard has a meaning.
No,
here.
so like here's the thing about Jews. Like we were just kind of peasants. So it's like country borders are arbitrary, right? Like we just lived on a shtetl, like under some random, lord or whatever. And then later the lines got created. So it's like technically I am Lithuanian and Russian, but I'm just an Ashkenazi Jew. We're all potato farmers. It doesn't really matter what country you're from. We're all like genetically the same. We all get Tay-Sachs. I don't know. It's just like that. You're right. I don't have a good, but like the accent, it was just so dumb. And it was just like, I didn't really get like when the accents were and when the accents weren't. And like they're Russian, but like they didn't really talk about Hydra. They kind of just talked about this like arbitrary East versus West war. Like the Red Guardian, was he more interested in like Hydra? Was he a Hydra agent, or was he just like a Cold War guy that just like didn't let it go? Like someone from the South who just like still thinks
he's the Al Bundy of the MCU.
And the family thing, like it was so confusing, and they like it wasn't clear. Like they try to create, and the conflict kind of suggests itself, right? Like, oh, the family was real, it wasn't. But then they did like the switcheroo thing with the mom, and then I was like, why are you adding all these layers to like a story that could have been good? Especially like you have good actors like David Harbour. We've literally seen David Harbour become a parent for another child, like a chosen parent in Stranger Things. He can play that role, and it was so much worse in this. And then like, why are you going to do a switcheroo when I'm trying to establish a relationship between the mom and the daughter, and then you're going to act like she does care, she doesn't care, she kind of cares, she doesn't care at all, and then, oh no, we're faking it out, she actually cares a whole ton. And like, I was just like,
it was really hard to get.
You can't give people that whip. Yeah, when you're trying to like build relationships, you can't keep like building it on shaky ground, which is what they were doing by using all these weird plot devices.
I would have loved if like Black Widow just shaved all the MCU bloat and was just like a complete standalone story in her like dark, torrid past, and it's just all her against like whoever, like nameless villains. I don't care.
No, but I'm saying, like, if you're putting it in that time period, like, why is it an isolated bubble in such a dumb time period? Like, and I'm actually interested in that time period, but this was not the story I wanted to hear there. Like, sure, give me something about, like, Steven and Natasha's adventures, like, prior to Infinity War or whatever. But I didn't need to see an origin story for the Infinity Saga. Like, I did not need that at all. I genuinely thought it was going to be what Brian was saying, like a dark, gritty story of, like, doesn't necessarily need to be like an origin story, but just kind of like really good plot development. We know Scarlett can act, we know Florence Pugh can act, we know David Harbour can act, and like, why are these people in the movie?
Rachel Weisz, oh my god, I can't believe she signed on for this.
It had such potential, and like hearing just the basic plot, like I thought it was gonna be way different. So I think maybe like I tried to go in with low expectations or no expectations, but I ultimately failed.
So it seems like the movie.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it seems like the movie it looks like it comes down to you either can tell an origin story or you can tell it addressing your past story, and they went with the
or
latter.
You could try and do both and fail at both and make an Anodyne movie.
I wish they made
I
the
thought the addressing
Logan
past was good,
version
actually.
of Black
Ooh.
Widow.
Yes, Logan is such a good example of how you can tell that type of story.
We already know the character, just
like you don't need
make
like,
them cool.
Well, Logan had a lot more time and solo stuff to build all that up, but like, I don't disagree. Like, they definitely could lean into like the hyper gritty for some of their characters. Like, she can actually have that because they clearly they wanted to step in that direction, but they didn't go full sin because that's like a good
much.
Black Widow movie is rated R. Keep it $150.
Oh, hell
sure,
yeah.
they'll never do that. But
Yeah,
like,
of course. But like,
agree.
You know, the same way a good Wolverine movie has to be rated R if you really want to embrace what the character really is. That's why Logan's the best one. But
to maybe
I'll give you that.
build off of that, it did take 3 standalone Wolverine movies before you got to Logan. And so maybe there's a little bit of not a pass, but like understanding that like and same with Thor, right? It takes 3 standalone Thor movies to get the chemistry right, to get the actual formula for that character right, or to make it fun and interesting.
But
in,
she
like, that
had a
highest
complete
level.
arc.
But she
Don't you
hasn't
think-
had her standalone movies, right? Like Wolverine had that Wolverine Origins movie, and then that Wolverine movie where he's like a Japanese influenced
The
fighter
Wolverine.
of some sort.
Plus,
yeah.
he's the star of every X-Men movie.
yeah, so
Yeah.
he's gotten like disproportionate.
And then you get to Logan, which, like you said, is now a really cool twist
Mm-hmm.
on that, right? But you don't really get that with this movie, but it's also their first attempt at making a Black Widow like full feature film. So I mean, maybe there's some bit of like whatever there, but yeah, I definitely agree with Mike. I found it lacking. I thought the like relationships were just a little bit confusing, and I tried not to focus on that too much because it was just like, hey, my expectations are low. This is not my favorite character in the MCU, and I'm just grateful to like have another MCU movie to like enjoy. And I enjoyed all of the action in the set pieces, and I thought they pulled all of that off. So speaking of its late release, right, because Mike has talked about how this was actually supposed to be released about a year and a half ago before some of the like TV shows come out and have advanced the story. And speaking of that, actually, sometimes I thought they tried to get a little too cute with like things. So like introducing the Quinjet at the end. It's like that wasn't a question I was wondering, right? Like,
Yeah.
where did the Quinjet come from? Like, I don't know. And then
Also, how'd she get herself free from General
the
Ross?
haircut, the vest.
Oh,
like,
that is also a good question.
No, that one I was just like, wait, what, son?
Yeah, how did she get away from all the
Ross,
All
yeah.
the Humvees.
Yeah.
She's just standing there dramatically, and then
Well,
that's enough to.
Yeah, I think a Screen Rant. They supposed that like maybe Thunderbolt Ross let her go since it was clear that she had actually done the world like a service, and he kind of turned a blind eye to let her just like get away. They should have shown that. Anyways, so Natasha is one of the original Avengers. I'm now on a first name basis with Natasha, by the way. But it's taken her a long time, right? She first appears she appears before Avengers, but Captain America, maybe? I don't know. She appears somewhere.
She appears in
Man
Iron
2.
Man. She's
Iron Man
actually
2.
Iron Man 2.
So she's one of these original Avengers, right? This is the first time she gets a solo movie. It's the first, like, she was one of the original, like, female characters, right? Everybody else except Hulk has had their own movies.
Hulk had his own movie.
And Hawkeye.
Yeah, and Hawkeye did not. But like she was the only female character in the original Avengers, never got a movie, and so people are like, "Hey, it's a little bit like over time." And this is after she's died, right, in the main Marvel storyline. So there really isn't much more to go with like Scarlett Johansson's version of the Black Widow. Does Marvel have some self-examination to do in how they're establishing their women characters in the MCU? Do you think it's like, well, maybe bygones are bygones, or this is just like the least of their interesting stories to tell, or it took them a while? Like, how are we thinking through like Marvel's, and even some of the cast and crew have talked about like, well, maybe without Me Too, this movie wouldn't have happened in the way it did. And so there's this sense of like Marvel isn't treating their female leads as leads, right? They're like always going to the male dominated stories first. And so I'm just wondering if you guys had any thoughts on that, or if this is just like something to keep an eye on.
I don't know how someone could say that after like we just had WandaVision, when like that was establishing her. No, like,
well, I mean, I think they planned Black Widow like way before all of this, right? Back in like the early 2000s. And they're also basing this off of very, very old comic books, which are also subject to all these like past social norms where like people don't give a shit about women characters. So like Black Widow as a character to begin with is not very prominent in the Avengers. She's like a low-powered hero and all this other stuff. So we're coming from a very, very far recessed place. But I do think that like a lot has changed in the past 10 years, and this is very much a belated, turn for the character, for Scarlett Johansson, for the MCU. It feels late because they just didn't plan for it. But I do think that Marvel, as you said, with WandaVision and Captain Marvel and Ms. Marvel and the Marvels and like all this other stuff that is coming, right? Like there is a sea change that has happened in terms of how they're planning the MCU moving forward.
The early MCU, when it was bad, was disproportionately just white dude characters.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like it's changed quite a bit in terms of, a variety of ways you could look at diversity. So I don't know. I think that. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So, I mean,
you don't think so?
I mean, WandaVision is full of white people. Loki's full of white people.
No, but intersectionality, Wes. We're looking at women, race. We're looking at all different types of identity, and I think overall it's shifted from white dudes, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's shifted a little bit, but I don't think they're overwhelmingly moving into like a more diverse world in the way that that reflects like a more diverse like city or country. But I don't think they get a pass on waiting so long on her movie, right? Like you're talking about this movie not fitting actually into the timeline of like where we're at. Like they could have done this movie 6 years ago or 5 years ago to actually fit it in after Civil War.
They probably should have.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that would have been much better for it.
And so I don't think they get a pass on like, well, like now they're doing it. I mean, it's great that they're doing it now, but also like I do think they still deserve some criticism for like this character has been with you from really early on. I don't know when Iron Man 2 was. It's probably 2010 or 11, something like that, right?
9, I think.
Okay.
Maybe
like,
10.
It takes you 12 years to make a movie about her when she's clearly one of the main characters. So
I also don't know how you cast Scarlett. Yeah. How do you cast Scarlett without her being a lead?
It's not like there's no star power.
Yeah.
No. So Wes, I'm gonna build off that because I agree with you. One thing that you gotta be critical of the MCU for is that a lot of their non-white male characters, they either didn't put some of those movies in a position to succeed, which you have to like criticize that. Like you can't be mad at the movie and then when you look at how the movie was set up, they kind of set it up for failure in the first place. And they kind of give a short leash to those types of movies too, of like, if we don't think this is profitable, then we're not going to really be ambitious or take chances on this. Like it was lightning in a bottle that Black Panther had worked out, but you see how if it were to ever try and do a black superhero lead that was really like the story that Black Panther was, but they pumped out a lot of ultimately mediocre movies that had white male leads, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but they gave those movies a lot more room to grow and mess up and get better. Like we said earlier,
definitely.
Thor was a boring character in the first 2 movies. He was so uninteresting. And then
I liked it in the first movie.
Okay, he was an idiot.
Like
Savon has a fair take. He was.
No, but it's like I I feel you though, Wes. Like,
Yeah.
Now
but
don't indulge him. Keep going.
No,
with
no,
your
no.
point.
I get
You're
it. I
making a
get
good
I get
point.
the things you would like, but ultimately, he was a bland character. He was a powerhouse character who didn't really have a lot to say or do. That's why they literally banished him away for half of the Ultron movie because they didn't know what to do with him. And then, but they realized, okay, this is what we can do to make him better. And now he's like an all-time favorite. Cap was boring as hell until they started to put him in more compelling, morally ambiguous situations. But it takes time to build to that, and that's one thing I've liked about the MCU. But I can't be mad at Captain Marvel and Black Widow and other things for not, or even Falcon and Winter Soldier for not being great when y'all just didn't put in the same amount of legwork. So you can't like put less investment in these characters and situations than be mad when it's not as good as other movies where, it's the same with Logan. A lot of X-Men movies with Fox weren't good movies, but they learned from him to give you Logan. But that was literally almost 20 years of movies, bro. Yeah. Black Widow gets to be a great tertiary, secondary character in a bunch of other people's movies. And considering what the material they gave her was throughout the MCU, like, I guess that's what helped me enjoy the movie more, is because I recognized that they didn't put her in a position to succeed in the first place with just her arc. So, the MCU's getting better about it because now they know that diversity can be profitable. Let's keep it a $150. Now they know. But, like, you did not have a short leash. You had a very short leash before. Even with the TV shows on Netflix.
What happens if Shang-Chi tanks?
Honestly, they probably not gonna put a lot of. But they're doing stuff to make sure it doesn't tank. Like if you saw that trailer, they have Abomination. They're introducing
that trailer
outside
looks
characters
That trailer looks pretty tough
because they know,
and they're gonna get like $1 billion from China.
Appeal.
Yeah.
But they cast Michelle Yeoh for a reason.
But that's real stuff. They were real safe on that, even with like a movie that was based around East Asian culture. And even then, Brian and Wesley, like y'all, we talked about how even then it's a very narrow lens of looking through Asian culture in of itself, which is still mad safe compared to Raya and The Last Dragon. So you gotta you gotta call it like you see it. They play it real safe. Like we talking about Anodyne stuff. They've been Anodyne since The Bounce.
That has to go into the title of this episode.
Anodyne from The Bounce. And we have to acknowledge, right? We're 4 dudes. We don't have a women's perspective here, and we didn't go. We probably should have done some legwork and asked some actual women we know, but. We're just giving our hot takes here. That's all it is.
When Shang-Chi comes out, can we do like a 2-hour analysis of it through a geopolitical lens and just see how far we can go with that?
Oh God!
How many times can you use the word geopolitical?
That's it. I don't even really know what geopolitical means, but it just sounded like it worked there.
Yeah,
it comes from the words geo, like never mind.
Like I want to wrap this up. Brian, you want the last word?
I just had like one last small follow-up question. Is there room for the MCU to course correct and do another Black Widow movie to get it right?
No,
yes.
no,
yes.
no, no, and no. Let it die. Let the character die. We didn't even talk about that dumb post-credit scene that had a little bit of poignancy, and then they just extracted every dollar sign they could out of it. No, let her die. She must be so happy to be done with all this too. She doesn't have to work again for the rest of her life just because of the Black Widow.
She's also a great actress.
She rocks.
Do whatever
I love
she wants.
ScarJo. Yeah, let the character die. Let's move on.
She's gonna be in a Rosa Parks biopic.
I didn't hear what you just said.
Nothing. It's fine. Ignore my nonsense.
Okay.
Was that a Ghost in the Shell reference?
It was.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yikes.
Actually, you know what? Before we leave, I did want to give you guys a chance to talk about Florence Pugh because she is gonna probably be now the new Black Widow, right? Where she's probably gonna take on that mantle. And like you referenced, right, they're gonna extract every dollar they can from this franchise, but she probably had the best acting, directing, writing throughout the movie, right? She was consistently good throughout
the
what
most
they did.
Interesting character in the movie.
In terms of her delivery at the dining room table, her moments with Scarlet Dynamo, he says Red Guardian, her interactions with Scarlett Johansson's character,
her 3-point stance.
Yeah, the comic bits.
They did that bit a few too many times, but I thought it was clever.
Great. I mean,
I liked it.
Both her bits, right? The vest and the 3-point stance, the superhero pose. she just delivered those like with such great timing. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody was dying with that part. So.
She was a
She
great
saved that
actress.
movie. If she was bad or it was a different actor, I think that would have been.
She stole the show.
Really
It was just as
rough
much
for the
her
movie.
movie.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
and then post-credit scene, now she's going to have a whole show. I didn't care for Julia Louis-Dreyfus there, and I liked that character in the TV show.
Darker Vengeance
and
happened.
like her being, manipulated to hate Hawkeye. I don't care. Like, literally, the theater groaned. It was actually kind of fun.
Really?
It was like,
Well, they're setting it up with
everyone in the
him-
theater was like,
Well, you'll
Yeah,
see
she's
when
gonna
she's
be a
fighting
Hawkeye.
Kate. When she's fighting Kate Bishop, we'll see how it goes because they're clearly setting
Yeah.
that up. Because
Yeah.
so we'll see. Maybe it's one of those things that's gonna look retroactively better if they can make the show really good. Because a lot of MCU post credit stuff felt like that too. Well, not grown, but like cash grab, and maybe it'll retroactively.
Yeah,
be
but this
better.
was like specifically for characters that, like, it's just clear they're trying to plug the TV shows at this point. Like, I feel like some of the older ones like generated hype with Thanos and all that kind of stuff. This one was just like, here's another Disney Plus show coming. You don't know any of these characters and you don't really have any reason to care about any of this and how it connects to everything, but get excited. Disney Plus is going to increase by $1 next month.
Maybe they'll end up teaming up, right? Like you're expecting them to be adversaries, which they obviously will be, but a lot of times adversaries turn into accomplices.
It's just the same.
Yeah, it's like an
universe,
Avengers
so like,
thing.
Yeah. All right. So that'll close up our show on the Black Widow. Hope you guys had a good time. If you had any thoughts on Marvel, on Black Widow, on Scarlett Johansson being large and what'd you call her? Large and luxurious?
Large and lovely.
Large and lovely.
I shouldn't say it like that. I'm sorry, Scarlett, if you're
that's
listening.
twice. That's twice now.
Hey,
Jesus
man.
Christ, Comfy is going to drop us.
But Disney will keep sponsoring us. So leave your reviews. Leave us a comment on our socials at confidently_pod. That's both Twitter and Instagram. Visit our sponsors. We've got thousands of them now. AMC Theaters, Comfy.com. Who else? Disney, Ford. They're all sponsoring us. We out.
Is it the same price? It's more expensive.
No, it's this so there was like a rumored Pro model, which would have made sense, right? Like
Right.
either, like,
That's
a
what everyone
1080p
thought was coming out.
Yeah, either like a 1080p handheld or 4K, like on the dock. You got neither. It's like I can't even think of a good analogy because it's like if you took like a Ferrari and put in like a Honda Accord from 1998's engine in it. It's like it looks cool, but like it's gonna run the same thing.
I don't think that was a good analogy.
Why? I mean, I guess not.
I didn't
guess
really
not.
understand it either.
Okay,
I'm just like,
okay, never mind.
word. Let's go.
All right. Yeah, let's go.
No sense, just vibes.
Exactly.
The vibes were right.
All right, they can't all be winners. Let me get my L's out before the show actually starts.